Hi everyone, welcome back to Choice Hacking. In today's video, I am breaking down an abandoned cart email from Adidas. We're going to talk about all the things that work really well, some of the things that could be improved, and the psychology behind why these things are working or not working. We're going to walk through each one of these sections step by step and talk about what's working in this email and what are some things that might be improved looking through the lens of marketing psychology and behavioral science. First, let's talk about something really simple. Now, this is something that a lot of brands actually don't take the time to do, but that can be really effective when it comes to abandoned cart emails. And that is simply showing the product that the customer decided not to buy. They've led with this personalized image of the product that the user was browsing. And this pulls on something called the mere exposure effect. So basically, mere exposure says the more we see something, the more familiar we become with something, the more we like it. A good example of mere exposure could be something like a pop song. So if, for example, the first time you heard Firework by Katy Perry, you might have been like, this is a little cheesy. I'm not really into it, but whatever. I guess this is like her new song. By the 100th time that you've heard the song, you're probably kind of bopping your head along to it a little bit. And it's kind of the same principle you would see with products, right? I like something, I like it enough to put it in my cart, but maybe I don't like it enough to complete the purchase. That's where showing the product and saying to the user, hey, you forgot this, can push them over the edge from, I like this, but I'm not sure about actually purchasing it, to, what the heck, I like these shoes even more than I liked them the last couple of times I saw them. Moving on to what I think is probably the most attention grabbing part of this email, and that is this headline that says, is your Wi-Fi okay? Now, this is really interesting because most of these abandoned cart emails that you get will say something like, did you forget this? Hey, forgot this? Come back. And that's fine, but that's a lot of like sameness. So whenever I see these emails in my inbox where the subject line is like, did you forget this? Did you forget this? I completely ignore them because I know exactly what is going to happen next. They're going to remind me that I need to finish buying something that I stuck in a cart someplace. But when you have a headline like this, it breaks what you're used to seeing, this normal pattern of, hey, did you forget this? You forgot that. And it also makes you a little bit curious, right? It's asking you a question. And that pulls on a psychological principle called deprivation sensitivity. This is when we recognize a gap in knowledge, the filling of which would offer relief. In other words, this is like when you see those clickbait headlines and it says something like, these are the cutest dogs. Number 5 will blow your mind. And you're like, I don't really care about cute dogs, but if number 5 is the cutest dog I've ever seen, I need to click on this and see what number 5 looks like. Let's continue. And you can see we've got the same shoes that someone had put in their cart, these pink gazelles, but you actually have them in a different color, which is an interesting move on Adidas's part. When you show this product that they were looking at, but you show it in a different color, it is a good way to capture people who may not have been crazy about the pink, but for whom like blue might be a better choice. Or maybe they didn't even notice that blue was available, or potentially it was sold out when they went and put the pink shoes into their cart. It's an interesting way to kind of get the customer or the user more familiar with the same product, show them some options, but do it in a way that doesn't really distract them from the task that you want them to complete at hand, which would be clicking shop now and going through and completing the purchase process. Next, we have a section in this email that to me is really interesting. And the reason for that, even though they haven't executed on it perfectly, is they're giving you 2 calls to action. They're giving you the call to action that says shop now. So the idea being I click on it, I go back to adidas.com, I complete my purchase, but then they're also giving me the secondary call to action that says customize. Now, I really like this because it pulls on a couple of different things. So the psychology principle behind why customization or co-creation is so powerful is something called the IKEA effect. And basically you had a bunch of researchers that went out and brought IKEA furniture into 2 research groups. One research group got the IKEA chair that was already put together. The other research group got the IKEA chair that was still unassembled and they had to put it together. And then when they had sort of a fake auction, they found that the people that had assembled the IKEA chair thought it was worth way more because they had spent all of this time co-creating it and they kind of emotionally bonded with the product. So customization can be really powerful when it comes to, driving things like, you could call it brand love or like affection for a product, but pulling that into this abandoned cart email, I think is a little bit of an issue, mostly because abandoned cart emails work the best when they're very single-minded. You're not confusing users with a bunch of new options. Even though this is an intriguing one, I would test splitting these out into 2 different emails. So the first email I would send would just have the shop now call to action. And if they didn't complete their purchase, I would follow up with a second separate email that is all about customization. Maybe it says something like, pink's not for you, but could orange or blue be the perfect shoe? Giving them some options, letting them know they can customize it because clearly, like, the pink is just not working for them for whatever reason. The second thing I would say is not really working here is just the paragraph. Like, it is a wall of text, and the copy actually isn't that bad, but they need to break it up a little bit. So here's what it says. Maybe your browser crashed when looking at the iconic gazelle silhouette. You don't want to miss out on this staple item in your collection. Think we're biased? Check out some reviews below. Didn't like any of the colors or designs? Feel free to customize your own model with my Adidas and step out in style. Okay, so this is a lot of information, and they're basically outlining this email thinking that someone is going to read this subheader copy. We know that people are probably not doing that. A lot of times this is the client saying to themselves, oh, but what if they don't know? What if they don't scroll far enough? And you kind of talk yourself into this tizzy and you decide, let's just put a lot of copy there because they might read it and it kind of makes everybody happy. Not good. When I work with my clients, I actually use a predictive AI as a salience AI that will tell you what people are paying attention to, what they're skipping, and it's within like a 98% rate of confidence. I can tell you with most people, most people are not going to read that subheader, so it is really wasted space. Moving on, there's only a couple of points left to make. We have got this secondary call to action, which I talked about earlier. Again, I'll just reiterate that this can be confusing to customers. The fact that you're going to take that limited attention span and sort of overload people, so call this like cognitive overload, give them too much information, too many next steps, it's not the right thing to do. I don't have the data behind how effective this email is, but if we revisit the strategy I proposed where we test spreading it out to 2 emails, that actually that's going to end up being more effective than putting 2 calls to action here. This is the very last point I will make about this abandoned cart email from Adidas. I don't know why I don't see more brands doing this, but they have included star ratings and quotes from customers. So you can see here it says, excellent, well-made, and comfy. Can't go wrong with the gazelles. And I think this is a really brilliant use of social proof. And I say it's brilliant because you don't see it enough. Like, some people might look at this and go like, everybody should include a quote or a star rating, but you'd be surprised by how many people just don't take the time to do it. Think about this process that somebody's going through when they're going to buy something. They're mentally trying to remove risk. What does it say about me? Is this my style? Is it too expensive? Will it last a really long time? Is it going to stick out? Am I not going to fit in with my friends? All of these things are potential risks. And while users or customers might not be consciously thinking all of this, they need to be reassured. And this particular piece of social proof, along with the star rating, has done that. Great. So that was our psychological breakdown of this abandoned cart email from Adidas or Adidas, depending on where you're from. If you want to learn more about using marketing psychology in designing email programs like this, you can visit my website, choicehacking.com. Below, there's a ton of these little case studies like this, not only about small things like emails, but also about big things like the IKEA store experience or how Target uses psychology to get us to spend so much money. I'd also recommend joining my free choice hacking newsletter. You can find the link down in the description below, but it's choicehacking.com/read. Every week, I send out a case study and a psychological principle that helps you become a smarter marketer in less than 5 minutes a week. You'll join more than 7,000 subscribers from companies like Google, Coke, Disney, and yes, Adidas, who get my newsletter every single week. It is free, and people really seem to enjoy it. Click below if you're ready to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.